What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master Football back at it again. Happy Sunday. I know the first live, first of all, here you go. First live stream here. So I want everybody to take it easy on me. Okay. Take it easy on me because I am, what's the term I want to use here? The way I usually record is I usually go, okay, so, think about conference. All right, well, think about conference. All right, thinking about conference realignment. Then I go on from there. I'm able to cut those first two out. It sounds super smooth. It's not. I am all over the place and this and that. But I wanted to go ahead and get live streaming more. I'll let everybody know I accidentally posted this and then I did it wrong and I actually didn't record anything. It was just I am very new at this. So everybody out there, please give me your what's the term I want to use here? Give me your deference. Okay. I'm not good, but we're getting better. Again, I usually post. I'm gonna try some live streaming stuff. I want to get to the point where, especially when I get to 1,000 subs, I'm gonna get monetized that way. I want to start giving more and more content out there for the people out there. So I want to provide more value, and I also would maybe monetize it a little bit. We'll see, but I got to bring the value first, then ask for the money later. That's how it works here. I want to make sure I can do that. But doing a good job. I love this. I'm super passionate about this. I actually was talking about this with my brother, and he's a software developer and I'm an HR. And basically it's like, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do? You would do easy breezy. My man, appreciate it. Appreciate it, easy breezy. But yeah, I mean, if I could do anything in the world, I would just talk about football. Like, as much as HR pays the bills, my brother's a software developer. Software development really pays the bills. If I could do anything in the world, I would just talk about football all day long. But anyways, what I want to do today, there is quite a bit of chatter out there right now. So I'll make sure I'm going to do my best to succinctly describe this whole situation here. We're eventually going to talk about academics. I want to make sure we're talking about academics. I know, crazy. Colleges want to talk about academics. No way. That's actually really important. But I think that we want to talk about the first thing, the most important thing is the Pac-12 media deal. Reason why with the Pac-12 media deal is that what's going on right now is the Pac-12 conference just lost a couple of months ago. They lost USC and lost UCLA. They are going to the Big Ten by the 2024 season. So they're also in the middle of their contract negotiation for their TV rights. And they're like, what do we want to do here? I mean, do we want to go to streaming? Do you want to go here? Do you want to go there? We know the Fox, CBS, there's a lot of different of those traditional carriers out there that are kind of interested in adding them. There's also the addition of potentially Apple TV Plus, maybe, an Amazon thing. Apple TV Plus tried to get into the NFL. However, the big issue with the NFL is that the NFL, what you have to do is there's rules about blackouts. And basically what it means is that, let's just say you're in San Francisco and the Niners are across the street and you're like, why can't I watch the game? They're right there. Why can't I watch the game? The reason why is because a blackout law prevents it, so that you have to sell all the tickets in the local region before you can broadcast it nationally. If it's a sold out broadcast, then they'll post it. Otherwise, they want to make sure they can artificially withhold the supply of the game to jack up the demand on the tickets. That's something, that agreement that they have. Apple wanted no part of that. Okay, Apple just wanted all the games. They wanted the Sunday ticket. They wanted all the games. Ultimately, the NFL's like, no, we have to keep this in line. They back away from that. I also saw, though, that they have a lot of demand for adding more sports content. I believe they also have some soccer games on there, some MLS games. Again, confirm with me right there. I don't know about that. But I do know, I watched Sick'em 365 Sports, and they had an analysis where it was basically 51% of Apple TV Plus members renew every year. So you got 49% fall off, 59 and then 49 fall off. So with that 49 fall off, is that something where a conference is going to pay a bunch of money for a bunch of people that aren't even actually going to watch their content? I know there's some weird complications with, I remember everybody a while ago, if you're old enough for this, you remember U2, the band, had their entire album put onto iPhones. And I believe that if you have an iPhone, you have either smoother access. I know I've got an Android. I know I've got an Android. My phone's better than your phone. But anyways, if you have access to an iPhone, then you have an easier, seamless transition to having access to Apple TV Plus. However, with that much churn, what are you paying for? What are you getting? How many people actually watch? Basically, that whole conversation right now is what the Pac-12 is kind of going through. There's a lot of questions around that. With those questions, and that's the most important thing here. With those questions, now I didn't give them this name. My dear friend Tony Altamore, been on the show before, will be on the show again. He gave them this name. The 12 Anon crowd. There are plenty, and I know personally plenty. I know multiple content creators. I know lots of people who are fans of Big 12 teams. They're great people, salt of the earth. People from Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Iowa, just the best people you'll ever meet. But in the same way that psychological, how do I say, distributions vary across many different regions, they also have crazy people. And some of the crazy things that they say relate to, they relate to whether or not the Pac-12 in this conversation right now, some of the Pac-12 teams not getting the number that they want in terms of a media deal. Maybe we're looking to go to the Big 12, maybe something like that. Those sorts of conversations are the talk of crazy people. Now, I did not give them this nickname. My boy Tony Altamore did. I'll make sure you send him his address so you can send him, a bunch of poop later on. Okay, love my boy Tony. But one thing he calls them the 12 and on crowd, not the QAnon crowd, but the 12 and on crowd. He's great with the names and the graphics and things like that. And as a matter of fact, we're going to look through one of those graphics here to see that right now, anybody who's in the Pac-12 leaving for the Big 12, there whatever small gain you might gain in terms of a TV market deal, you will drastically lose in research funding and institutional prowess and this and that. Now, again, that's not to say that the Big 12 doesn't have good schools. Don't get me wrong. Boise State, my boys, you have the shirt on right now. They're somewhere in the 300s right now, somewhere in the 250s and 300s. But again, I think those numbers are a little bit off. But again, we can get over that later. I do want to make sure that we can talk about this, though, that anybody leaving the Pac-12 for the Big 12 would, on paper, everybody don't come in, would be leaving for a less, not bad, but less academically prowessed conference. So I'm going to try and share this right quick because I've got this right here. My boy Mark Rogers, I got his phone number. Okay, I'm not trying to say I'm cool, but I'm decently cool. Anyways, Mark and I have been hitting each other back and forth. Actually, we've basically just been missing each other all weekend. But I'm going to call him up. We're probably going to do some collab pretty quick here. But I want to go over this graphic that was shared by Tony on Mark's show. We're going to go over that real quick. First thing I got to do, again, this is live streaming, so I don't know if I'm going to do this the right way. So we're going to go with a share screen. Let's click this thing right quick. And then we want to go to here. So boom. Share screen. All right, everybody. And again, if you're a fan of college football, this is an important thing to remember here, especially the mid and lower tiers. There's like 4 schools that really need to listen up right now. Fresno State, Memphis, UNLV, and Boise State really, really need to listen here. But basically right here, this is an academic rank plus research spending, Pac-12, Big 12, and the candidates for both. So it talks about this here where the top section right here is academic rank according to U.S. News and national universities. The blue is Pac-12 rank. The red is Big 12 rank, and the TBD candidates are in yellow. And the below here is research funding, including in-town medical schools, campus labs. So you'll see here, the blue is the Pac-12, the red is the Big 12, and then the yellow are the candidates. So some of these candidates here, so you'll see here, like you see Rice over here, the number 15 school in the country, according to U.S. News, AAU member, and they have 200 million plus in research funding. Come over here to my boys, Boise State. Hey, listen, this 331, it's probably closer to 331 than 450. I know, complete homer, whatever. Get off my back. Anyways, you see the fact they've got $46 million in research funding. That number has been going up. Okay. You're going to hear me, wax and wane about, or not wax and wane. I don't even know what the proper term is. You're going to hear me inflate Boise State's academic prowess here because I love my boys. But talking about this here, you see these associations. So the 2 teams in question, USC, UCLA leaving for the Big Ten. The Big Ten right here would be all chock full over in this end right here. The Big Ten is very, very academically prowess schools, lots of research funding and the like. Now with that, you see the fact that the blue generally is a little bit, their group is a little bit higher ranked than the red group. Now the red group's not bad. You see here BYU just joined 89th in the country, TCU 89th in the country, Baylor 77th in the country. Not bad. But Stanford is arguably one of the top 10 universities in the world. Washington also is as well. And I know that sounds crazy, but I know that if you go to U.S. News World Rankings, for some reason, Washington, and just a really, really very, very strong school, is up here as well. I mean, they've got 1.4 billion in funding in terms of research funding. Stanford's got 1.2. Cal has 3.6. Jesus. Yeah, so you see that break means it's a really. I mean, Cal is a lot of, as much as Cal is not a primary mover and shaker in the, they're not a mover and shaker in terms of the, athletic world. They're absolutely one. I mean, Berkelium, Californium, there are elements named after Cal. No offense to Iowa State. I don't think they can say it. Iowa State's a really good school. Don't get me wrong. But I just want to make sure they're on a different level. Now, with that, we see the two names are brought into question. SMU, again, number 72 according to U.S. News, $42 million in research funding. Now, research funding is not very good. Again, my Boise State, they've been trying to be, the research university. They've been stepping that up. So not great there, but a very, very good school in Highland Park. My company's based in Dallas. Highland Park is as ritzy as Texas can get. And then we have San Diego State. San Diego State is part of the Cal State system. A very, very good school. Actually, as a matter of fact, one of the things that's holding them back in this U.S. News academic ranking is the fact that they weren't, and this was a rule because of Cal State and UC systems. Again, they're both report to the the state of California. They don't want them competing against each other. Cal State systems were often seen as like the nursing school, the education school, whereas like the doctors and lawyers and the higher level degrees are from the UC system. So they were kind of competing against each other. If you remove doctorate degrees and it's just bachelor's and masters, this rank goes way up. I believe actually they're somewhere in like the 70s if you remove that. So San Diego State is a very, very good school. Now, if you think about this, you see right here, SMU is right here and San Diego State is right here. So San Diego State is a bottom third Pac-12 team. And SMU is a top third Pac-12 team. If SMU was in the Big 12, they would be the top university. And if SDSU was in the Big 12, they'd be a middle of the pack. So if you're SDSU or SMU, as much as you would like to have an extra 5, 10, maybe even $15 million a year in TV money from the TV contract from your football or your sports broadcasting, that's important. However, if you're looking over here in these research institution dollars, I mean, there was some number that was thrown around that Arizona State, since they've Colorado, since they joined the Pac-12, has had an additional $250 million in research funding. I don't know exactly what the term is. I believe it's jumping over dollars to grab pennies. Yeah. So universities' academic ranking 100% impacts all this stuff, and we don't do enough of that. We do a lot of things like that. Again, myself, there's a couple channels out there. My boy Kuz's Corner. We've got Mountaineer Paul. I love the Mountaineers. Okay, I love the Mountaineers out there. But they do a really, really good job out there. Now, with that, I think that we all do the same thing. We all talk about we talk about geography, competitiveness on the field, TV market, fan base. Those are extremely important. Other than my boy Tony Altamore and maybe a few insiders here and there, nobody really talks about academic prestige and academic integration. I've said it a couple times in a couple of my broadcasts. You want to make sure that the people in your conference that are voting on things that affect your students, you have the best interest in mind. If you're in a conference and school A, B, and C don't give a dang about academics, and they're voting on the travel schedule for your baseball team, of which you've got four you've got four really, really high level students. You don't want them being like, no, well, they could go on, 7 consecutive overnighters. Who cares? That's a really basic situation. There's another situation too that Tony talked about here, where it's a lot of the faculty recruiting is incredibly important, and having a higher academic prowess makes that much easier as well. So, and I'm letting you know right now, guys, if you guys are commenting, I can't see it. I'm still figuring this whole thing out. So hopefully nobody's commenting, but I'm sharing right now. So it's very important that these numbers and the kind of line up with each other. The 4 teams that were discussed most: Colorado, Utah, Arizona State. Right now, they are middle of the pack. Arizona State's probably the lower third. Arizona's getting on towards there too, in terms of the conference. Colorado's kind of fits in between these teams here. If they were to join the Big 12, they would be some of the higher rated teams. Colorado's up here with TCU, BYU, and Baylor. Arizona State's over here with Kansas, an AAU member. Iowa State, UCF. They're kind of really, really well. However, if you think about this, would you rather be the bottom? Would you rather be the worst house in a nice neighborhood or a decent house in a decent neighborhood? I think I completely ruined that analogy. Yeah, absolutely terrible. This is why you live stream, okay? Live stream is really bad because mistakes like that. Would you rather be let's just say this right now. So Arizona State is one of the lower rated houses in a nice neighborhood. Would you rather be that, or would you rather be a middle of the pack house in the middle of the pack neighborhood? Yes, I did it. Boom. God, live streaming is tough, dude. People do it forever, other than the girls who just go into hot tubs, which basically is just OnlyFans at that point. Shade. All right, so that is very important for this kind of situation here, because if it was just academic or football prowess, we're looking over here like UConn. A lot of people like UConn is not a mover and shaker. They are when it comes to academics. SMU, improving football brand. Again, they got in trouble for the same thing that the other schools were doing back in the day. So they shouldn't have ever had that situation. But you see right here, BYU coming up. TCU is on their way up. I mean, these were both Mountain West teams before. SMU was a Conference USA team at one point. Utah was a Mountain West team. You can really move up quickly with this kind of thing. I think San Diego State over here, public university, them joining forces with UC system. I know that there was somebody who said that, Cal State systems and UC systems joining together in the same conference doesn't mean much. We've seen it in soccer before. Yeah, this is not soccer. This is football. So really, really important for that. My boys, Boise State, UNLV, Memphis, and Fresno State. I'll let you guys know. Okay, you guys, it's a much better fit into the Big 12. Now, whether or not the pro rata clause and whether or not they actually want to expand west, I do know that Fresno State and UNLV, because of that desire to get into that fourth window, that is something that's beneficial. Boise State will actually also play games at 8:30 if they need to. People would hate it, but at the same time, if they had to choose between an 8:30 game in a big conference or a 5 o'clock game on local TV, they would probably choose the latter, not they would choose the better one. Dude, this is why live streaming is tough. Anyways, UNLV, Boise State, Memphis, also same situation, probably fits better into the Big 12. Again, doing what they can. They've got the access to FedEx. UNLV's he's got everything except for football prowess and academic prowess going for them. Okay, in Vegas, a market nobody has. It's really, really unique in that perspective. Playing a gazillion-dollar stadium. It's a market that isn't really touched by the Pac. I mean, it's all in between Pac-12 regions, but it has a very transient community. It's really easy to get to. Again, that's because Las Vegas subsidizes a lot of flights from other places to Las Vegas. So there's a lot of things there that are working for them. Fresno State, again, UC system or Cal State system as well. They don't have very much research institution. They're not a super highly academically prowess school, but these four schools right here, you're probably hoping for the Big 12. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. It might. Again, they want to probably move west. Memphis is on their way. Memphis, keep your head up. You guys are doing good, okay? Update to the Liberty Bowl. You got a lot of things going on. Need to probably get this academic prowess up before you probably integrate better into these conferences. So it's very important. I know people, we often throw this away. My only person who talks about academic prowess is Tony Altimore. Everybody else talks about competition in this offense and that offense. There were a lot of people that were talking about Lincoln Riley being at OU, enjoying the SEC, whether or not they're going to be ready for that, offense or not. Those are things that move and change a lot. There was rumor out there that George Kliavkov was talking about Deion Sanders joining Colorado, and that be helping the evaluation of the conference out there. That's no, because in 10 seconds, Deion Sanders could be like, what, I'm quitting. You have to pick the school. You can't just pick the coach. Same situation with a lot of things here. So that's what's going on here. I want to make sure I brought this up. I also want to touch base on this too. So earlier here too, with that, thinking about the academic prowess, I wanted to talk about this because this is what fans do, and this doesn't show what the university presidents do. So we see here that we're talking about viewership 2014 to 2022, not including the ACC network TV viewership ranking Florida State's number 1, Clemson's number 2, and then a big drop off. And then Louisville, Virginia Tech, and so on, all the way down to Duke. When you're talking about the ACC, who is or who are, would you guess, the top candidates when it comes to conference realignment for the Big Ten and for the SEC? If they had to take any of those teams, who would they take? Now, asking Twitter, they're going to take this end. But we're not going to ask Twitter. We're probably asking university presidents, and they want this school, and they want this school. They want Virginia. Multiple presidents went to there. It's a really, really good institution. And same thing with North Carolina, really solid institution. Virginia and North Carolina, have you noticed? No Big Ten presence, no SEC presence. There is in South Carolina, but we're not going to talk about that. So when you look at this, this is where most fans are going to go in terms of what they should think about with conference realignment. Where is this team going to go? Where's that team going to go? Bop, 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 bop. There's a lot more that goes into Virginia. There's a lot more that goes into North Carolina. Now, again, Florida State is a really good school. Don't get me wrong. Miami is fighting for AAU membership. So let's just make sure we're clear about that. They're doing a lot of good things there. But Virginia, North Carolina, those teams are very, very, very valuable when it comes to conference realignment. So I'm just letting you guys know. We're going to talk about a couple of these things. Also, in this broadcast, too, they were talking a little bit later. And the ACC's deal is so bad that it's good. What I mean by that is that in the same way that for if you have the ACC deal, it's protecting its members from getting poached, because not only do you have to have the exit fee, you also have the grant of rights. And the grant of rights is written in a way that there's basically not much you can really do about it. Now, remember here, this is coming from somebody who said that Texas would have and Oklahoma would have to wait until 2025. They didn't. They paid for it. Now, if you think about that, it's so crazy because they paid hundreds of millions of dollars to move 1 year earlier, 1 year to get in the SEC. But you have to think about this. That was announced earlier. It was Oklahoma and Texas are going to the SEC, was announced. And then a year later, USC and UCLA was announced that they were going to the Big Ten. However, USC and UCLA was happening 1 year earlier, even with the announcement being 1 year later. So SEC was kind of like, we need to do something. We had to figure something out. So they decided to pay that money, Oklahoma and Texas do, to get them into the league. But with the ACC, there's not only hundreds of $millions in exit fee, but whether or not you want to get beyond 16 in terms of a conference, that could be a situation. We don't know. But I think that we're probably going to be sitting here. I don't think any of these teams that we're seeing on the screen right here are going to play any other conference before 2030. And I'm saying 2030, probably closer to 2036. But we're probably sitting in that situation here. So I know that people are thinking that there's going to be a lot of conference realignment, especially the Big 12 crowd thinks they're going to pull some Pac-12 schools. You're not. And then there's potentially some people out there, maybe we're going to pull some ACC schools. You're not right now. So I think that the only movement we're going to see is G5 to and G5 from. So again, SMU, San Diego State, Mountain West, and American pulled those teams over. Now the American, and again, the Americans have got 13 teams now, and we know my boy Mike Oresco, he's real aggressive. We got a girl, Gloria Navarez, who's taking over for Craig Thompson in the Mountain West. She's going to be at 11 teams, only 10 member institutions that don't play football, or that play football and play other sports. Hawaii is a football-only member. So there's going to be some more movement there. Also, does Brett Yormark want to get out west? If he does he want to head Fresno State? Does he want to head UNLV, Boise State? I don't know. That's probably the only movement we're going to see in the next couple of years. But again, we don't know. We all thought that Texas and Oklahoma were going to stay until 2025. It moved it up 1 year. I mean, that's how much the competition is between the Big Ten and the SEC, that they literally paid hundreds of millions of dollars so they can move one date 12 months. 12 months. That's it. I mean, this is college football, though. But remember, when you guys are talking to your friends and you're talking to your chief down the road, this team should join that conference. That team should join this conference. One thing you have to remember here. Crap! I got a commercial. Sorry, guys. My personal account has skip the ad. Okay, this matters more than you think it does. Just want to make sure we kind of do that. Oh, I got to add a couple in here. Oh, do you want a better copy of that chart? Okay, hey, Tony, don't you worry, my friend. I'm going to get you on here soon. Okay, you gave me your number. I'm sorry, I've been handling some things here and there, but I'm going to get on my channel soon. UNLV and UNM for basketball. Um, I guess. I mean, gonna be too sexy. I appreciate it. You're subscribed to the channel. I will say UNLV is they are a better basketball program. And again, UNLV, first of all, I'll let anybody in the Big 12 know. I'll let anybody in the Big 12 know. There is nothing nearly as cool as having your conference championship in Las Vegas. It's awesome. Okay. It is sick. New Mexico. I haven't really weighed them very much. I'm not up to on them in terms of academic prowess. Basketball is solid. It's solid. It's solid. Now, again, it doesn't have. I mean, like Kawhi Leonard went to San Diego State. You know, it is. It is. You know, they're much better off than they are. And my boy, Gummy Too Sexy. Tony Althorpe says you're the best. You appreciate it, man. Go Bears. I'm letting you know. UC, man. UC is the system out there, man. Remember, Tony Althorpe will let you know. A lot of people don't think that Cal Berkeley is a mover and a shaker. Berkelium, Californium, when they talk, people listen. They are a factor in conference realignment. I don't give a dang what anybody says. Okay, I actually want to talk about Tony about the lack of inclusion of Oregon in a Big Ten expansion, because I think that's one thing that is really interesting when you talk about, because everybody thinks, oh, Oregon, Washington, they're a pair. But whether or not Oregon actually fits and whether or not the rest of the Big Ten wants Oregon, I don't know. He actually said it was probably a better pair of like Stanford and Washington to go to the Big Ten. Again, that's just what I've heard. There's a lot of stuff we don't know right now, but man, conference realignment, dude. I tell you what, you can talk about it forever. It allows people to get it allows people to yell at each other for no reason, and it's super polarizing. The views just go up, dude. I tell you, the views just go up. Oh, little boy, look, there you go. Yeah, Gummy Too Sexy. Gummy, DM me, dude. Hit me up on Twitter, dude. Okay, get me on the show. All right, I got to get you on the show. Okay, I'm gonna talk to you about some Cal stuff. Talk to you about the direction of the program. We're gonna do something like that. Okay, but yeah, man. I know that I wanted to get on here and talk about this really quickly. Also, I'll let everybody know this was a little bit faster than what I did before. I did a stream before. Didn't even hit the start button. Okay, complete idiot. This guy right here. But I'm getting better at this. Again, I want to get to the point to where I can start offering some things. Sunday's a pretty dead day for me. I usually go boarding on Saturday, but Sunday I got a lot of things I can really do here. So I'm thinking about doing some more things. Big Ten is worried that a prolonged exposure to Oregon's uniforms and basketball court can cause cirrhosis. Yeah, dude, and listen, cirrhosis is serious, okay? Cirrhosis is an extreme. You need to worry. No, I'm just kidding. So Tony, what have they been doing with Maryland? Okay, because Maryland, not only do they have the Maryland flag, which has three different tones and colors. It is it's absolutely crazy. You know, I don't know, man. I think that too much of that, though. You're right. If they had Oregon and Maryland, if they played, that would be like a cross-mogenation, and the universe would be done. Okay. Gummy Too Sexy is not on the tweeter. Okay, well, Gummy, it's okay, man. I'll get my people to connect with your people. I'll just probably text Tony. He'll text you. Okay, something like that. All right, Aloha Nate. Aloha Nate. I appreciate you. I see you out there commenting on my stuff. I appreciate it. People say the Big Ten needs a West Wing for USC and UCLA, but wouldn't adding more West Coast schools add travel for the current 14 schools? That is true. So you're not wrong when you say that. However, it's one of those situations where, and if you looked at this at a map before, so when Penn State was added to the Big Ten, Penn State's, if you look at a map, they're kind of on an island out there by themselves. So it's a weird spot. So when they did is they added an Eastern partners for them. They added Rutgers and Maryland, had a couple different things, regional partners out there, in addition to adding the New York and DC markets. So you want to make sure you have a integration with that sort of thing. So in the same way that USC and UCLA are going to be out there by themselves, I think that they're going to add Western pods for them so that you can make sure that, let's just say you have 4 teams out there. First of all, I'll let you know 16 is a really nice number, because 16 at a conference level, you can have 3 guaranteed rivals every single year. and then you play 6 other games between the remaining 12 members. You play everybody every 2 years. You play everywhere every 4. It works out pretty nice. However, if the Big Ten expands beyond that, you kind of lose that math. But if you add members out west, it allows it so that USC and UCLA and potentially Stanford and Washington, they all can play each other for the most part. So that takes away a couple of those road trips for those Eastern teams. First of all, ask West Virginia what it's like to travel in conference right now. It is absolutely bananas. Okay, so I think that adding schools there could potentially add more travel, but for the most part, what it would do is it would allow it so that those West Coast teams had some places they could go close by that would potentially reduce the amount of times they have to travel back and forth for other teams. So yes, potentially, but the more West Coast teams out there, the more teams you can schedule those West Coast teams, between each other and reduce the amount of travel. And again, I haven't actually sat down to find out the adding how many teams would you have to add before it kind of moves back and forth. I haven't done that math, but I do know that's the concept here. Oh, what's up, Terry? Listen, okay. Here's the deal. I will let everybody know something about this. And Terry, I want your opinion on this. Okay, so I'm bifurcated in my fandom. So you see there, I'm a Raiders fan. So let's just make sure we're clear about this. Boise State is, I would say, if of 1 to 130, there. If Oregon is 1 on the creative with their jerseys, and Penn State is 130. Boise State is more like Boise State's probably in the teens. They're probably 15, 17, 18, 19, somewhere in between there. The Raiders are 32nd in the league. If the creativity of their jerseys, if the Jaguars, who change their jerseys every 7 seconds, is 1, the Raiders are like the Steelers. The Steelers actually have a couple alternates. The Raiders alternates don't even look that same. So I'm basically saying here, I am a fan of both tradition and ingenuity. I like Oregon's uniforms. Okay, I prefer it. That's just me. But Terry, thanks for the comment here. All right, Ope Daydon. I hopefully that's not one of those Seymour Butts or something like that names. Tony Altamar, do you think there is a possibility that Oregon could not be invited to the Big Ten if the ACC grant of rights does get thrown out of the SEC and the Big Ten divide up the ACC? Okay, so let's think about this really quickly here. Oregon's not invited to the Big Ten. The ACC grant of rights gets thrown out, and the SEC and the Big Ten divide up the ACC. Oregon could not be invited to the Big Ten, but then maybe they get it's like a Oregon and then like a Virginia Tech, NC State kind of a thing situation. I maybe. I'm thinking about this one. I don't really know. Maybe that's something interesting too. Because if you think about that, again, Oregon and Washington are ones that were mentioned the most. They were mentioned the most, but if Oregon doesn't make sense to the Big Ten, and again, this is all operating on the understanding that the Big Ten wants to go to 20 teams or 24 or whatever that is. Interesting. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I would guess that they would be down on the list below Stanford, UW, and Cal. But the more I hear from the Big Ten folks, the more the Big Ten may stay at 16 for a while. Again, my boy Tony, I'm telling you, I think that I made a video about this. I made a video about Kevin Warren. So Kevin Warren comes in. Kevin Warren's a mover and a shaker. He's only had the job for a couple of years there. Kevin Warren comes in. Okay, he gets a new TV rights deal, adds USC and UCLA, and he's like sitting there. He's like, not only are we making more money than the SEC, we've got so many things going for us right now. But he's probably sitting back on his hands and he's like, hey, I also want to get UW, Oregon, Stanford, and Cal. And Ohio State is like, well, we know about that. The rest of the school's like, not really sure. And he's like, well, I'm basically going to sit on my hands for the next couple of years. I'm locked in. I've got the biggest deal. I'm absolutely killing it. Why would I stay here? He decides to go to the Bears. Bears need a new stadium. He got a new stadium for the Minnesota Vikings when he was there. He's a mover and a shaker. And if he's going to sit on his hands, he's probably not going to have the job. I wouldn't be surprised too if the Big Ten stayed at 16. It's just, I don't know, man. I mean, we don't know until something happens or something changes, but I wouldn't be surprised. Again, like I said before, 16, you have 3 guaranteed rivals. You play everybody every 2 years, everywhere, every 4. It's really, really nice integration there with the conference. Okay, I'm curious to see if Uncle Phil has made plans to take care of Oregon if he does pass, considering the fact that he's in his 80s. Yeah, that's it's unfortunate, because you're right. Because Phil Knight is definitely pushing the Oregon bandwagon, but he's like kind of the only one. But I mean, we'll see. I don't know. Well, maybe he's got a really good will. We have three. We got here, and we got. I heard the Big Ten can't expand because there's no more money for new teams. Okay, now remember here, Aloha Nate, that is true. I believe that is true in terms of like if you add more teams, it's gonna detract from how much money you take. Remember here that using that logic would defeat when they added Rutgers and Maryland. When Rutgers and Maryland were added, and probably the same thing's gonna happen with San Diego State and SMU, is that they had a lower payout the first couple of years. But they want to do is slowly integrate them into the league. We'll give you the new markets, the access to new markets. The current teams won't have reductions in pay. You'll have a lower payout. And then when we re-up the deal again, and they re-up the deal, and he was like, hey, I've got Chicago, New York, now LA, now DC, now, Minneapolis. He's got all those big markets. Goes up from there. So that's potentially true, but I'm this removes these strategic ads, and the Big Ten is not beyond strategic ads. They've already done it before. Like the Texas and Oklahoma ad were awesome. I mean, if you can add Texas and Oklahoma, you will. That's the reason why everybody who can add Notre Dame will. Notre Dame's kind of choosing not to at this point. But I think that I would not put it past them to have some more strategic hires. That was probably what Kevin Warren was thinking. He was probably like, we might lose money on these teams if we add them. We add in Oregon, we add in Washington, but we add Seattle, we add Portland, we add a West Coast, wing. We do something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if that was kind of the situation there. I would say that Oregon, the Big Ten, would have to go to 24 before they got in. Just my observation. 100% true. I think that again, I got to talk to Tony about this. Break this down a little bit more. I also want to talk to Tony about he had mentioned something to me before in passing where he was like, Arizona State is mad about funding, but not for the reason people are mad about. There's a bunch of situations like that, but I do know that Oregon probably would be in the top 24, but they're probably not in the top 20. They're probably not in the top 22. And again, there also is that added degree where if the Washington legislatures and the Oregon legislature say Washington and Washington State have to stay together and Oregon State have to stay together, there was something that happened with UCLA and UC Berkeley. Realistically, that was just, I think that was just Gavin Newsom flexing just as he didn't want something run by him. I mean, the numbers made all the sense in the world for them to go to the Big Ten. So I would be surprised if Oregon, they're not going to be added to the Big Ten. But again, I know they want to, but I just wouldn't be surprised if they don't. Renee, my boy, I appreciate it, man. A team like Nebraska would benefit from the Big Ten expanding into Texas, say UH and Texas Tech. Okay, Renee, you are not wrong with this. And actually, as a matter of fact, one of the big hindrances of Nebraska recently as coming over from the Big 12 was they were predominantly recruited out of Texas. And I'll let everybody kind of know here. Colorado, Texas, Kansas State, those programs in the Big 12, they benefited heavily from the Texas Longhorns, kind of mediocrity for a couple of years there. Because they were down, and all those schools would come down to Texas, raid all their players, and go back up to where they're from. So if they were to get back to Texas, that would be valuable to them because they've had a kind of a struggle of where they recruit from predominantly now. I mean, if you're a Big Ten team, you're in Nebraska, you play predominantly in Minnesota, Iowa, you play in, Pennsylvania. Again, they're going to go to divisionless football, so they're going to play all over the place for the most part. Do you predominantly recruit in St. Louis, Missouri? Do you go to Illinois? Do you go to Ohio? Do you go to Pennsylvania? I would go to Ohio and Pennsylvania. That's just me. But yeah, I mean, they would benefit from that because that's what they've known before. And in fact, the reason why they've kind of delayed their progression in the Big Ten is because they've kind of struggled with where do we recruit predominantly now that we don't have access to games in Texas. So not 100% wrong there. Also, there are two schools in LA who have said over my dead body does that duck show up to the Big Ten? Listen, okay. I have to know something about this. I have a perspective here. I've got more Tony on watching this video. I need to know. Do Pac-12 schools look at Oregon the way college football looks at UCF? Like what you're doing, but you are noisy as hell. Okay, I just want to know that because that's what I think I've understood so far is UCF, dude. UCF, listen, Boise State, they they went 14-0 and beat Oklahoma. They went 14-0 and they beat, I think they went 15-0 and they beat TCU. Didn't declare themselves national champions. UCF goes undefeated, declares themselves national champs. They really like themselves. UCF fans really, really like themselves. But I'm interested to hear that about. Got it. Let's go. Okay, let's go. All right. I'm telling you. Okay, because Tony and I we rub shoulders with the same people. We kind of see this. We see what happens on Twitter. I'll let anybody. If you guys ever want to meet the most inflated egos in the world, go online, look up UCF Golden Knights, and just read the Twitter posts. Dude, they're going to the AFC South. Okay, they're going to be playing the Jaguars pretty soon. If you ask them, they're going to be beating the Texans. They're going to be awesome. So, man, all right, let's get over here to the chat some more here. So we got here, Oregon football established 2000. Yeah, that we 100% right. And I didn't believe that it was Mike Bellotti or Nick Bellotti or I forgot what the head coach's name was, but they haven't. It's kind of like, I didn't know this before. Wisconsin football does not have a very, very broad history. It's basically been Barry Alvarez and on. I think it's kind of the same situation with Oregon football. Again, they've had some good players before and this and that, but for the most part, Wisconsin's a newer brand of football. It's not remember the old Wisconsin days in 1941. You can't say that. You can say that about Notre Dame. You can't really say that as much about Wisconsin. Kind of the same thing with Oregon. Oregon is a very, very popular football program as of late. I think that's because your boy Phil Knight started to contribute to the team, is what we'll say. All right, I'll let anybody else know who doesn't know this. If you ever want to know college football realignment, conference realignment historian, Tony Althmore is the best. This goes back to the 1950s. If John McKay were not a Duck alum and UCLA hadn't lost their rights to vote in the Pac-12 and wanted them back, Oregon would be playing Boise in the Mountain West today. Well, they're 0-3 against Boise, so they wouldn't have liked that anyway. Oh, okay, sorry. So, yeah, the history here is awesome here. I'll be at the Texas Tech Oregon game this fall. Can't wait. Also planning on heading to the OU game following year. Dude, I'll be up in the Northwest too. I am probably planning on going to the UW Boise State game. I'm a little bit worried because UW looks like they're a terror squad in the making. But it'll be Labor Day weekend. Go up there in Seattle. Seattle during the summertime is the most beautiful place in the world. So yeah, love it out there. Also, this went way better than I thought. I thought it would be literally. You want to know something? This is so cheesy. So you want to know what's really embarrassing? I'm with Ope out there. Dude, I'm telling you, Ope, he's the man. Like, you ever want? He's awesome for history. Do you know how worried I was when it came to this? I literally, here's a secret you do. You post. This is my own personal account watching me right now. It's muted, just to make sure I had at least one person watching my stream. Well, I've got 11 here. This is 10 more than I thought it was going to be. So this is awesome. Oregon and Texas Tech deserve each other. Hey, dude, I'm telling you. First of all, dude, Gumby, I don't know if you know this, but I have a bunch of companies. My company's based in Dallas, and we have Texas A&M, we have Baylor, we have Texas, and we have Texas Tech. And I believe it's Hook'em for Texas, it's Gig'em for Texas A&M, it's Sick'em for Baylor, and then I don't know. I think it's like Shoot 'em for Texas Tech or something like that. I don't know. There's something out there. Or Wreck-'em. Yeah, Wreck-'em Tech. That's it. Wreck-'em Tech. That's that one. So I don't know what it is, but I'm interested to know what like SMU is and stuff like that. It's like Pay 'em or something like that. Pack history laughably makes the Real Housewives seem collegial in the tame and in comparison. Also, Boise State fan myself, old school rivals, University of Idaho. The University of Idaho used to be a part of this too. And I don't know if Tony can provide a better clarification on this too. But I do know that, yeah, it's Wreck-'em. We got Wreck-'em Tech. Yeah, you go Wreck-'em Tech. Thank you guys. Guns up, another one too. But basically back to this comment here. So the University of Idaho was a part of the pack back in the day, but TCU is arthritis. Yeah. It's like I heard Andy Dalton say, "Make a peace sign, make it angry." Yeah, it's kind of like, was it like rigor mortis? Maybe it's not. Come on, this is an adult stream, okay? You guys know what you're getting into. But Idaho was a part of the Pac-12. I believe Idaho and also Montana were a part of the Pac back in the day. And I don't know what kind of transition from there. He could also kind of bring that up there. But Wait. Oh, Fred Sanford hands. Oh, come on, man. What are we doing here? My stream is deteriorating. No, love. First of all, thank you all for being here. This is awesome. I'm so appreciative of all you guys. I really appreciate this. But but yeah, I know that I'm probably gonna be doing this more often. I'm also gonna. I'll make sure I have a video posted tomorrow. But yeah, these hangouts are awesome. I know that for me, probably Sunday. I posted this at night. I'll probably think it earlier in the day. I have not gotten to the point yet where I've created like my own community, in terms of like official, and I kind of like orchestrated this and that. But I will, and at that point, I'll kind of ask people when's the best time to get this posted, when's not. I mean, right now, it's 7:18 on the 7 8 or it's 9:18 on the East Coast. Um, Idaho got the boot hard in 1957 because they were a part of a failed coup to expel UCLA from the PPAC. What the hell do people in Moscow, Idaho think they're going to do about people in Los Angeles? I mean, listen, there's very nice people in Moscow, Idaho, but that's unbelievable. Yeah. So first of all, Tony, we're doing a video. We're in a Pac-12 history video. You and me, we're doing it. Okay. What do you think of a potential ACC Pac-12 merger? Possible in 2030. Possible. Now, here's the math that I'm operating. Here's my logic with that is, again, you have to make sure the institutions match up institutionally. So I personally think the second that any of those ACC schools become available, Virginia and North Carolina are gone. Whether or not they go north or south, I don't know. To the north of the Big Ten, south to the SEC, I don't know. But beyond that, do I think a ACC as it is and a Pac-12 as it is just match up? No. Do I think a remnants of one and remnants of another meet up after some sort of transit? That's possible. So, yeah, but I do believe in that instance. I think that probably Stanford, Cal, Oregon, Washington, maybe not even Oregon in that instance. We'll take Oregon out, and then probably Florida State from a competition perspective, also a solid school too, and then Virginia, North Carolina. Take all 6 of those, throw them out of the equation, then do the math around the conference. That I think is a reasonable thing that can happen. Now, that again, probably not till the 2030s, but I think that it would be the retreads of that, the Oregon states, if they were allowed to separate from Oregon, the Utahs, the Colorados, the NC States, the Wake Forests, the Boston Colleges, things like that could come together for something like that. But I think that would be a later on thing. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that again, remember here, and again, this is coming from us. So we thought Texas and Oklahoma paid hundreds of millions of dollars for 1 year to move the date of the conference 1 year just to keep up. I think it's keeping up with the Joneses, in my personal opinion there. But there's the ACC, and again, Tony had mentioned this in that broadcast there. The ACC's deal is so bad that it's good. The language is so awful that it helps out, meaning that it's like it's. And if you ever read, like I work in HR. HR tentatively touches legal stuff, so you have to read laws and you have to read how things read. So there are certain states that are easier to work in as a remote employee. There's certain states that are harder. As an example, the state of Montana, their labor laws and hours calculations. If you work in Montana for 1 second, the law is written to the point to where you could potentially have to pay taxes in that state. Even if it's for 1 second, it'd be like a couple cents, but it's written that way. There's other states that have kind of like, nomad laws. You work here you have to be a resident after 181 days. But I think that, I'm basically saying like the language around that is so broad that it covers everything. That's apparently what's going on with the ACC right now, is that they're trying to find ways out of the granted rights. They already know what the exit fees, hundreds of millions of dollars, but the granted rights are kind of staying. It's just, there's a lot to go into. I'm not actually going to try and break that down because I don't have the contract in front of me and I would be speaking out of turn. But like you said, we'll see. Crazier things have happened. I think if they start to go into court on the granted rights now, they will settle, because if it goes to trial, there is always a chance you can lose. Yes. And everybody knows, every single lawyer knows, this is something we all think that like trial is super common and this, that. No, there are deals made all the time outside of court. Nobody wants to go to trial because the fees just go up through the roof. We'll often see it with, like, if somebody's on life for like murder, you can go through a plea or something like that. But typically things get settled outside of court. But court is expensive. Well, man, I posted this earlier. No, I videotaped it earlier. Didn't hit record. It was the stupidest thing in the world. I am now 50 minutes in. Guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up right now. 50 minutes in. I've got fried chicken waiting downstairs. I'll get to one more call. I can't help it, man. Although I got to do it for you. I don't feel bad for the ACC. They voluntarily signed for that 20-year deal for the ACC network. Yeah, they effed around and they found out. Remember, if you sign a long contract, you get what you pay for. You get security at the cost of lack of flexibility. So that's exactly what they did. I don't feel bad for them either. They knew what they were signing. But remember here, they went this way and all the other schools signed shorter deals because the TV money is going like this. So yeah, I mean, crazy. They got what they paid for. Guys, I'm going to wrap up. I'm starving. I want to get going. Go eat. Where are we at? There you go. I'm going to go eat, dude. Gumby, if you think Oregon and Washington went to the Big Ten, but were denied because they'd legally hitched to their state schools, I can see a type of calimony arrangement for Oregon to go. Hey, Gumby, get in contact with me, dude. I don't know how. We need to talk. All right, guys, I'm starving. I'm going to go. Peace.